There's a couple of things that I should talk about right now. I'm playing with my fingers, and most slide playing works well with your fingers because you can block the notes you don't want better with your fingers than you can with a pick. I'm also wearing finger picks, which is not necessary. I like to wear them, and I find to get a cleaner, louder sound. And if I want to strum or do other things, the picks help. But anything I'm going to show you, while I happen to be wearing the picks, you can also just do with your bare fingers. But the main thing is the grip that you get when you rest your fingers on the strings. If you think of it as basically putting your ring finger on the high string, your middle finger on the second string, your index finger on the third string, and your thumb on the fourth string. This way, if you rest the back of your thumb along the low strings, everything is muted when you're not playing. And if you want to just pick, say, the fourth string, you can do that and you don't get everything ringing out, or just the G string, say. So if you just want to play licks up and down the third string, right now, because of the way I've got my fingers resting on the strings and my thumb resting along the back of my thumb resting along the low strings, the only string that's open is the G string. Similarly, you could move your thumb up and leave just the B string open, or even just the high string. So that's why those licks sound as clean as they do. Because whenever I'm not picking a string, I'm muting it with my right hand. And you can practice doing that until it drives everybody crazy who's within hearing distance. But that's a good way to just practice getting those notes to sound clean. Now, the next thing I want to get into is I talked about how you want to use your slide on your pinky so that you have fingers free to fret with. So here's a vamp that you might want to try that uses fretted notes on the left hand, and then we're going to combine that with some slide licks. So the basic vamp sounds like this. That I'll break down and play slowly. Starting with your thumb on the fifth string, then your index finger on the third string. Now fret at the third fret on the D string, over to the open G, second fret on the D string, open G, and then open D, third fret on the A string, slide up to the fourth fret, and then the D string. So that's. That'll sound like this up to tempo. You also want to damp the strings with your left hand on something like this. Right after you hit the downbeat, just let all your fingers rest flat on the string. So even if you've got a bunch of stuff ringing, everything gets cut off. So you could be making all kinds of noise. And you just bring it all to a stop by patting down with your left hand fingers on the strings. So there's right hand damping and left hand. Now, there's other places you can go that's still basically in the open position, but you're going a little further up the neck. These are the kind of licks that Muddy Waters used a lot for his sort of, they're really like rhythm guitar parts, even though they're single notes. I mean, we usually think of rhythm guitars as being strumming chords, but the parts on a lot of early Muddy Waters tunes, the guitar parts, they're like riffs or single note parts, and there's some fretted notes, there's some slide notes. So you might want to try playing this. Think of the scale as being, or the group of notes we're going to play out of, starting on the A string, 3rd fret, 5th fret, and then 3rd fret on the D string, 5th fret on the D string, and then up maybe as far as the 7th fret on the D string. And so if you're playing a fretted note pattern for the 1 chord, for the G, slide in to the C chord, just grabbing the 5th and the 4th string at the 3rd fret, and sliding up. And answer that with a single note. And that will take you back to the G chord. So what I just did was slide 3rd to 5th fret on the D string, and then down from the 5th to the 3rd fret, pull off to the open D string, and then 3rd fret again, and then 3rd fret on the A string, and then the open A. So going from just, say, 2 times on the G pattern up to the C and then back is going to sound like this. There's another thing that I'm doing on these licks that descend from the 5th fret back down to G. I'm not always hitting the note and just leaving the slide right at the fret. By which I mean, when I'm hitting the 3rd fret, I'm actually coming in from a little bit below the 3rd fret. And then that's the 3rd fret on the D string. 3rd fret on the 5th string, I'm hitting the note right at the 3rd fret and then bringing it up a little bit. It's kind of like one of those bends you might do playing standard guitar, where you're bending from the minor 3rd. If you bend it a whole half step, a whole fret, it sounds kind of square. If you just let it sit there, though, that also sounds kind of lame. So it's that thing where you're sliding or bending, and you almost get to the next half step up, but not quite. You cut off the note right before you get there. That's what I'm doing down here on the 3rd fret of the 5th string. And there's that right hand damping. I'm playing the note at the 3rd fret, sliding up to about here, to the middle, right between the 3rd and the 4th fret, and then cutting off the note with my index finger. So coming down from the 5th fret, sliding in from the 2nd to the 3rd fret. Now, there aren't a lot of rules about when you do which kind of inflection. I'll try to point them out as I go. The inflection of going from a minor 3rd partway up to the major 3rd is a pretty standard blues move. But when to slide a half step or a whole step, you know, it kind of depends. You know, there's a few different slides right there. Sliding 2nd to 3rd fret, and then pulling it back again. And then a whole step slide from the 3rd to the 4th fret. There's so many different nuances and things you can do. You might categorize them a little bit like this. There's playing 2 notes, which are just 2 separate notes that you're going to play. That's just playing them separately, muting the strings or with your right hand or blocking them in between. You could play the first note and slide to the next one. That's still treating them as 2 separate notes. Then there's using the first note just as a grace note. Like what you're really doing is playing that 5th fret on the G string, but you're inflecting it by coming in quickly from below. And the same thing is true in reverse. We'll talk more about those kinds of moves and when we get to the E tuning, because in particular, this fast slide down was a favorite technique of blues rock players like Duane Allman. And we're going to talk about that when we do the E tuning. But the fourth thing is sliding, maybe doing a grace note into a note, and then pulling the slide back. So you're really playing third fret on the G string, second fret on the G string, but the way it comes off is like this. A fast slide up or a grace note slide, and then a real slide back, and you might pull off from there. Okay. Back to the subject at hand, which is playing chords with the slide for the C chord and the D chord, or the 4 and the 5 chord, if you're doing a G blues. We've got the basic vamp. Going to a C chord. Okay, now that's a 12-bar blues, basically in the style of early Muddy Waters, open G tuning. And I added in one lick, a move on the D chord. And that actually has a pickup into it. You've got to cut the G rhythm figure short. Here's the D figure first. So you're coming up on the 5th string, open on the 5th string, slide kind of from 3rd, partway up towards the 4th fret on the same string, over to the open 4th string, and now from the 5th to the 7th fret on the 4th string. Now slide from the 3rd towards the 4th fret on the 4th string, and then pull off to the open string, and then 5th to the 7th fret on the 3rd string. So that's, altogether that's, and so that will take you, that's basically just one measure. So you've got to come out of the G vamp with the slide. So it'll sound like this. And then into the C. Now let's hear what that sounds like with the rhythm section going on too.